I decided that early on I needed to have basic training for tough souls. That's a general idea. I think young artists need to figure out how to get acclimated to just an enormous amount of rejection and not take it personally. Every writer that comes in the theater that looks at what I'm doing is not trying to hurt my feelings. They may well hurt my feelings. Too bad for me.
I live in New York City. I live in New York City. I live in New York City. Yeah!
I got the best review I ever got in 1981 when I presented my first full evening of work at Dance Theater Workshop. It was the New York Times, and it was rave review. It might be the only good review I've ever gotten from the New York Times.
We have a problem right now with our critical landscape and the poverty of our critical landscape. I mean, I think there are a number of not-for-profit theaters whose marketing plan, as far as I can tell, is cross your fingers, there's a good review in the New York Times. I mean, for a while I was like, let's just stop paying any attention to the critics. Let's just figure out other marketing. We're in the world of new media. Let's just not do this anymore. And then I thought, that's wrong. We need critics. And they can make your career. They did it for me. Ben Brantley did that for me.
You know, I read most reviews because I'm interested. The thing is, because I'm an improviser, I don't really, there's no preparation, so I'm not as precious about each performance. So I'm not biting my nails going, gosh, I hope all that work I put into it, I hope they like it. It's more like, well, I got up and I made it to the venue, you know? So the stakes are completely different for me. I'm just interested in seeing what they thought of the performance.
I used to like looking at them years ago because when you first start, you need this press so you can use it as press for yourself. And the more you become in that legendary status and you know what you're all about and you know what where you're at, and if you see a review that starts ripping you apart, it's not great. It's not great for your vibe. I tend not to look at them, but then once in a while, it's almost like looking at Pandora's box or looking at Medusa.
Most of the people I know now manage to read nothing, or they say they do. I have trouble with that because I'm just so curious, and it's gotten me into terrible trouble. But I've rarely felt, if it's good, I've rarely felt that it's affected my performance. If it's bad, there've been a couple of times where it's actually helped.
As a producer, I need to know what the reviews are because, you know, then we negotiate the marketing of it. It actually matters more to me when it's a production that I'm not in, because then I feel like I have to fight for it, you know. But as an actor, you just can't. You can't let it destroy you.
And it's really happy when you get a good review, and it's really hard when you don't get a good review, and you can't believe in the truth of one without believing in the truth of the other, and so you have to take it all with a grain of salt. But there is just you know, on a cellular level, it feels different when you're well reviewed. It just does.
I'm gonna make what I like, and hope that people like it. You know, great press is great press, but I mean, I can't think about that now. It wouldn't be helpful to me, I don't think.
It was the very first preview of Angela's mixtape, and I was not in a good way. I was not in a good way. I was getting ready to come back out thinking, God, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. Why am I doing this? This is painful. I walked out on that stage and I saw Charles Isherwood sitting in the third row with his notepad and his pen, and something just blew up in me. It was like this nuclear fission where I have to curse. I was like, fuck you, man, fuck you. Fuck anyone who's gonna judge me. Fuck you. And I just was like, this is gonna be the dopest show ever. Watch this, Charles Isherwood, watch this. And that's what happened. That's what happened.
Reviews can be crushing for me. Crushing, and my whole reason for living is in doubt when something negative is said. But there is something in there that you needed to hear. Sometimes there's something in there that you realize was totally mean or nasty, wrong, but it made that man or woman in you stand up. Because let's face it, the world does not need another hungry artist, and they let you know it regularly. But you've got to be able to say, and am I allowed to say this? Fuck the world. It's what I need to do, right? Fuck the world. So what are reviews? They are really almost like an existential challenge to your identity. And with more success, the burden gets heavier.
New York City. I live in New York City. I live in New York City. Yeah.